Hi, I'm Kathy Benner. This is Fit as a Fiddle Plus, and tonight I am coming to you from Columbus, Ohio. Just got back from Sarasota. We went down to take a look at our condo and kind of look around after that hurricane went through there. I don't know, Rita, did you get any damage where you were?
Not here where I am in central North Carolina, but you've probably heard Western North Carolina got hit really bad. They had a
Yeah,
lot of damage. Yeah, it's
yeah,
very
we had a
unfortunate.
lot of damage as well. Now, Kathy Mela is with us tonight, and Kathy, you're on the east side of Florida. Am I correct?
Yes, on the east side, southeast side.
Okay, so you're on the Atlantic side, and I don't know. I think it probably fizzled by the time it got to you. You might have gotten a lot of rain, but I don't. Did you get any flooding over there?
No, we were pretty good. I have a daughter that lives in St. Pete, and she had some damage, not from flooding, but from a tree that fell on her house. So that was a
Oh,
unique experience and still is ongoing, as
oh
that
yeah.
takes a while to clean up after all that.
Well, and plus there was some other damages. There was a lot of damage even around the St. Pete area. So getting even workers over there right now is a problem because everybody is super busy trying to do the cleanup. So on one hand, I'm kind of shocked at how much damage there is, but on the other hand, I can't believe how quickly that it's coming back to normal. I mean, everyone is pitching in and doing what they need to do, and it was looking really good just in the 10 days we were down there. So I'm excited for that. For those of you that are listening in, Fit as a Fiddle Plus is all about just living a healthy lifestyle, and it's everything from the way you eat to the way you exercise to even medical procedures that you're going through, your mental health, your physical health, your financial health, your spiritual health. I think it all works together to make us whole. And so we're going to talk to Kathy Mela tonight about what she brings, what her message is, and what she brings to the table. And it's an amazing message. I love it. I love Kathy. I love everything that she's doing. But before we launch into talking with Kathy, I want to pass it over to Rita and let Rita tell you a little bit about what she does. Rita.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm sorry, I got a cough drop because
Okay.
the cold is going and cough is going around my house, and I'm starting to catch it. Um, so yeah, welcome everybody. Glad you're here. I'm Rita Brewer. Been a physician associate for 33 years. And I now specialize in coaching type 2 diabetics because this is truly an epidemic in America and all around the world. At least 37 million Americans have this condition, and it's a preventable and in most cases reversible condition. So I love working with any type 2 diabetics, people who want to just get overall healthy, lose weight, get their cholesterol down, improve their blood pressure, all of those things, which I really love. So I have a diabetes reversal coaching program, which I do. I have a new venture, Kathy, I wanted to share with you, and I don't know if we should wait till the end or if
Okay.
you want me to share it now.
Yeah,
Um,
go ahead.
I also work with my PA license for other people for a very long time in weight loss. I prescribe a lot of these new weight loss medications, the GLP-1 drugs you may have heard of, Wegovy, Zepbound, Ozempic, things like that. And in the right hands, with the right management and treatment, they are phenomenal drugs and they work really well. But unfortunately, a lot of people can't afford them. A lot of insurance companies don't pay for them, and they cost over $500 a month out of pocket. So I've partnered with a colleague of mine who's also a PA, and another colleague who's a phenomenal compounding pharmacist who has a great reputation and very knowledgeable. So we are going to start our own little weight loss clinic where we can customize compounded doses of these medications for people. So for those, filling that niche market for people who can't get the medications but want the medications, and it's a more affordable way to do it, and even more customized too, because we can really customize the dose for each individual person. And then my colleague also does bioidentical hormones. So it's a great combination altogether. So we're going to be doing that right here in the North Carolina area. If anybody needs that type of support, we can help you if you're in the state of North Carolina. So I'm excited. We're getting ready to launch that very soon. If anybody's interested in that, please get on my mailing list. Go to ritabrewer.com, join my mailing list, our social media. All my social media is Rita Brewer Consulting. And I'll be letting you know the details as we have that ready and as soon as we're ready to launch. So I'm really excited about that. So I can help people who need that, but then also the health coaching and the combination together is just perfect, I think. So I'm excited.
Oh gosh, that is perfect. Rita, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, are you gonna hope to grow it to an extent where it can be where you can help folks outside of your local area, or is this just is your goal just to stay in the local area?
For this part, because I'm working under my PA license, I have to have, my medical license is just
Okay.
North Carolina. But
Okay.
but people who need the coaching without the drugs, I can help them, anywhere around the world as long as they speak English.
Okay. And of course there are other options. There are online programs where you can get some of those drugs online, and if they're doing the wellness coaching with you, you can still help them decide what is right for them.
Yeah, and you got to be really careful with a lot of those online
Oh yeah.
options because it's really just like, here, take this medication from somebody who sees you on a phone call or
I know.
for
I
five
know.
minutes, and the management can be risky. So you gotta
Yes.
do it right.
Well, and then of course, I think one of the biggest concerns, and I'm sure this is something that you've thought about as well, is once you prescribe something like this for a patient, are they taking the right amount? Or are they thinking, well, if this is good, maybe this much is better. Let's just give ourselves, I think
And
that
a
would
lot of
be,
people do that, and people have ended up in the hospitals and all kinds of side effects. So that's why the right coaching and education along with
yes,
it is critical. Don't just get a prescription from anybody and just do the rest on your own. It's dangerous.
yes, yes. I,
And
I totally agree.
I just wanted to weigh in on this while we're talking about this because this is so true that, we sort of have gone to this mindset where we don't need human connection to help ourselves, and that we can find a program that's like one size fits all. We don't buy clothing one size fits all. We don't all buy the same jewelry, do the same thing. It's like, so why do we think that's going to work for any of these other things in life? So I love what you're doing, Rita, because that's really powerful to help individualize programs for people so that they can have the success that they desire.
Yeah, thank you.
And have the confidence that it's right for them.
Yeah.
That's always the big thing, every time. I mean, even when you see just regular television and you're like, oh, here's this medication ad, and ask your doctor if this is right for you. And it's like, wait a minute, am I telling the doctor what I want, or is the doctor telling me what I need?
The commercials are telling you what drugs you should get.
I
It
know, that's scary to me. I get
is.
that. So Rita, congratulations. I'm
Thank
excited
you.
for you. This is another step in putting together all of your offerings. And gosh, I'm so excited to see where this is going to take you. You can help so many more folks. And I get it. Some of those folks that are insulin resistive, these drugs are there if they're done correctly. And so
Yeah,
Rita, thank you for your part in all of that. I appreciate you so much.
my pleasure.
So let's move over to Kathy Mela. Now, Kathy has a 45-year career as a nursing leader. She observed many women leaders sacrificing their own well-being while serving their patients, families, and community. And so I'm sure Rita can attest to that in her profession as well. Boy, it's kind of draining, and especially when you're of the mindset of helping folks. You just roll up your sleeves and do what has to be done. We were just chatting about, the damages that we saw with this latest hurricane. And I can't believe how so many folks just rolled up their sleeves and they're just working tirelessly day in and day out. And if you do that occasionally, I think it's good. But if you start in a career where you're doing that every day for years, it can certainly sacrifice your own well-being. So as a single working mom of four, a granny of seven, oh my gosh, I hope I look like you, Kathy, and a great granny of two, oh my goodness. She has firsthand experience of what it's like to constantly feel overwhelmed, stressed, and burned out, always putting yourself on the back burner. Her mission is to empower nursing leaders and caregivers who know they were meant for more, to go from feeling burned out, stuck, alone, and overwhelmed to own the truth of their impact, be confident in their own skin, and have the courage to value and believe in what's possible for any age in any season of life. So now she wants to help you save your life by equipping you with the knowledge, tools, and expertise to have clarity, confidence, and courage to be the best version of you right now. I know how many of us we don't live in the moment. We live in the future. Like someday when I retire, then I'm going to take better care of myself. Someday when I finally get this paid off, then I'm going to start going to the gym. Someday, how many of us do that?
Or then I'll be happy.
And oh yeah, oh yeah. So Kathy, what inspired you to focus on helping women in their third season of life unlock their potential and live what you call live full out? What does that mean?
I think for me, what inspired me was my own journey. Having been somebody who didn't do that, who did all the things that I'm talking about, lived life overwhelmed, exhausted, stressed, got to a burnout state, even led from that state until I had sort of my own personal awakening and started taking a look, holding that mirror up to my face and having someone else sometimes hold the mirror up for me so that I could look and say, oh, is that really who I want to be? Is that really how I want to show up in life? So it was really around that. And I've spent a lot of time in my career, even though, my career was around saving babies' lives. I worked with a lot of women. Women predominant nurses are predominantly women. There are some males, and around doctors and a lot of female doctors and a lot of female people in the medical health, in the healthcare arena that didn't take care of themselves. That whether it was mentally, we talked about that earlier, mentally or physically or spiritually or financially. It's like how we often sometimes we put on a face like, oh, everything's good. It's sort of like social media. Everything's good over here. And that may look good in that moment, but is it really? Is it really sustainable to have you thrive? Many people are just surviving, hanging on, as someone said to me recently, hanging on by their fingernails. And I know I lived that way. I had a magnet when my kids were growing up that people would say, how do you do it? And I said, that magnet, it said, when you get to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. And that's what I felt like I was doing for a long time. And so it was in survival mode. And yet, we get to choose to live in a thrive mode rather than a survival mode. I know there's some places in the world where it is more about survival because we do have to have our basic needs met to want to get to that thrive level. And I just look at it so differently that there's so many of us that are blessed here, and especially in the US and in many countries, and we have a choice. We have a choice to thrive or just hang on and survive.
What was your aha moment, Kathy? You say your own life journey is what made you think about this and put together this program that we're talking about so that you can help other folks. What was going on in your life? What was the wake up call, so to speak?
I think there's two quick stories I'll share. One was so it was around the whole personal growth. I was always looking to make extra money, and so I always like had something on the side, like a side hustle. A lot of it was around network marketing, and I was doing one network marketing thing, and somebody came and talked to me about another network marketing thing, which I liked, and I joined, and so they had a lot of personal growth and development there, and courses to go to, and one of the ladies, we were talking one night and she was talking about dreams. And, she asked me, what's your dream? And I thought, I didn't have a dream. What does that mean? That's like for kids, dreams. And I realized in that moment that she sort of gave me that permission that I could start to dream again, that I could start to look at something beyond the kids' next, vacation, the next time they were off from school and what I was going to do. So yeah, to look a little bit out in the future. And yes, I like to live in the now, but we also have to, I think we have to look at the past to evaluate it and then look at the future as to who we're becoming. And then the other thing was, again, in these personal growth programs, that it was sort of a phrase that they would say, like, how are you showing up? And it was again that holding the mirror up. And mirror work is, I'll say it's, if you don't know what that is, that's sort of evaluating yourself as a mirror, and sometimes it's other people giving you feedback. And I started looking at things from a different perspective. Rather than here, I had moved over here and I was looking at it from here, and I was like, oh, how am I showing up in life? And oftentimes I didn't like it. I knew who I really was deep inside, but I was living a life that was around what I thought I should be or was supposed to be or had to be. And I got to take a look at that and really tap into who I am and start bringing that to the surface and letting that other stuff kind of fall away.
Good point. I remember in my days at the salon, as many of you that know me know that I had 5 beauty salons for 25 years, and I ran by the clock. I mean, I had if I didn't have somebody in my chair that I was actually working on, I wasn't making any money. And because I had been, the starving single mom for so many years, when I finally got into that industry and realized that, I needed somebody in my chair in order to make money, it was almost, if you think about it, it's like a commission job. If the client didn't walk in, I wasn't going to get paid. It wasn't like I had a corporation writing my paychecks. So no matter who came through the door, if they said, hey, can you do my nails? I'm like, yes, have a seat. Yes, have a seat. Yes, have a seat. I was doing nails till 10 o'clock at night, 6 days a week, because I was so afraid that gravy train was going to stop. And
Mhm.
so I just kept taking as many clients and I had to finally, like you said, Kathy, I had to finally look in the mirror and say, how am I showing up? I'm racing from one appointment to another all day long. I'm not eating right. I'm not drinking enough liquids. I'm not getting any exercise. I'm sitting in the same chair for hours at a time. And it started to affect my health, but I didn't feel like I could quit.
Mhm.
So when you looked in the mirror and you said you didn't like what you saw, I didn't like what I saw either. How did you make that transition?
I call it 1 degree change, little by little, like one step at a time. Because sometimes it can be overwhelming. You're like, oh, you know, I have all these things I need to, like, there's something wrong with me. And there's nothing wrong with any of us. It's just that sometimes we allow other people's perceptions or, again, beliefs or something to cloud our own idea of who we are. And I just started peeling back the layers little by little, 1 degree change. Again, like you said, things like my health. I looked at my health. I looked at my behavior, especially at work, with my kids. Like, how am I, again? And I started just using that one phrase and I think people got tired of me saying it because I would sometimes ask them, have you thought about how you're showing up? And it's really about yes, I'm not responsible for how other people perceive me. And yet I am responsible for, am I giving the message in the way that I want to give the message? Am I communicating effectively? Am I not being nice? Am I being harsh? Am I being rushed? Am I, being impatient? It's all those things. And I realized I could look at it differently. And it was little by little, literally little by little, 1 degree at a time. Still, it's
Okay.
not, we're never done. This idea that we're done with something in our life, I think until we stop breathing and our heart stops, we're never done. And we get to continue to peel back layers and look at our lives and say, how do we become who we really are created and designed to be?
So and again, we're talking a lot about women. When women start to feel that unfulfillment or whatever that feeling is, what do you think's typically missing?
Missing. What's missing? I always say the first thing is awareness. And once you have the awareness that something is out of sync with yourself, that then you can do something about it. We often, and I say we because I've done it, I don't exclude myself. We often stick our head in the sand about where we are, what we're doing. And I'll give for instance, I for my early years of married life and having children, I weighed around 140 pounds. I always believed I was fat at 140 pounds. So it was something in my head that happened way back, some
Okay.
belief system. And then when I got divorced, I decided that I didn't want anybody to be interested in me. I was too frustrated and angry and resentful. I share all these things. This is really how I felt. And that I just gained weight and I ate and I ate and I ate. And I probably gained close to 100 pounds. And I had my head stuck in the sand about it because I didn't want to do anything about it. And again, it was around the same time that I got into this, network marketing company, and some of their things were about healthcare, that I started evaluating what I had been doing to my body physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, just looking at that and saying, oh, okay, what's one change I can make? What's one thing I can do? And little by little over time, I have released about, I don't know, 50, 60 pounds over many years. And there's still more to go. And that's a peeling back thing. But yeah, really it's I think that's what I wanted to say about that.
Mm.
Wow. I get it. I remember again with me, and for most of us that are listening, I think most of us try to think, okay, we're listening to what Kathy is saying. How does that relate to what I'm going through? And I do remember those days in the salon that I had such a I showed up so busy. Oh, I can't do that, I'm too busy. Oh, I can't go there, I'm too busy. Oh, I can't spend time with the kids, I'm too busy. Oh, I can't, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. And I realized that I was wearing that busyness almost like a badge.
Yes.
Mm.
Like, oh, I'm busy, I'm too
Mm.
busy for that stuff. And so those regrets do start to set in. I mean, I did that for 25 years, and so after a while I regret some of the things that I missed because I was so busy. um, you
Mm.
mentioned releasing regrets as a key focus in one of your master classes. What are some of the common regrets that women in this stage face, and how do they start letting go of that?
I think when you start getting the awareness, it's sort of a regret of the things you're talking about. If you have family, maybe that you didn't spend enough time with people. We get to a certain age where some of our loved ones are more sick, or maybe they've passed on, and maybe we regret not spending time with them, or our kids, or our friends, or even maybe regret not taking care of ourselves. And I think that it's important to. I actually can tell you I don't live in regret. I certainly did for a while. I have no regrets. I have worked a lot in the place of forgiveness, and forgiveness is a big piece of living without regrets. And a lot of times say, well, I can't forgive that person for what they did. Forgiveness is not about the person or thing, or whatever it was that did something to you. That's more of a victim mentality. And I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just telling you the truth. And so I heard this quote recently that what's the difference between a victim and a hero? And a victim is someone who says, the world hurt me and I'm going to hurt the world back. And a hero is somebody says, the world hurt me and I'm going to do it different.
Mm.
And so, we all get to be the hero in our own life, whether someone hurt us or we've hurt ourselves, or whatever the thing is. We all have pain, we all have hurts. And getting into that forgiveness mode allows us to start here and forgive ourselves, and allows just that energy of forgiveness to come in that space and heal those old wounds. And I'm not saying it's easy. Sometimes it takes a little bit. Sometimes we need some support to walk through that forgiveness. I know I have. And then get the support you need. I think that is a key thing around regrets. But I think most people start regretting maybe they didn't do the career they thought, or they thought they would be further along. Maybe they didn't save enough money. I think I hear that a lot. I didn't save enough money. I don't know if I can retire. And I didn't take care of myself. I didn't spend time with people. I would say those are some of the big regrets that I hear.
I'm curious, Kathy. Could you share maybe one of maybe of your client stories? For, like, who is the ideal person that you love to work with, and could you share maybe what that story was, and how you helped them make a transformation?
Yeah, recently, so one person actually two people come to mind. One is somebody that I worked with this past year, and she retired from from the nursing community, and was sort of like trying to figure out what's next. She didn't, I think when you've been active all your life, or when you feel passionate about certain things, we don't want to stop. We have this idea that retirement means we stop and we just, you know, play pickleball and hang out with friends and play games, and that's it. And for most, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. We definitely want to have time for that. And we also want to have a sense of purpose. And this is what's missing for a lot of people in life, and certainly later in life, is that sense of purpose. So you got to find out what that is. What is your purpose here? Why are you here? And so can you just say the question? I feel like I went off on a tangent again.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, no,
so
no,
a
that was
client, yes.
you're right on target. Yet just sharing the story of what their challenge was and how you helped them.
Yeah, so she wanted to she had started a business, but the interesting thing was that she was feeling like imposter syndrome. She kept feeling like, who am I to do this? And she still wanted to help. She worked a lot with new moms and in the hospital. And so then she wanted to continue that work outside the hospital, but she kept saying, who am I? I don't know this, or I don't have that. And again, that who am I to do this maybe at this age, or for whatever reason. And so we worked with that for quite a bit, and she was able to get her business to where she's got the success that she wants in her life right now. The exact number of people that she wants, and yeah, and she's thriving.
So coaching, she's doing a coaching program.
Yes.
Yeah. And you said there was a second story that you thought of?
Yeah, and this is someone I worked with for a few years, and in the beginning she's an author. And so I don't just work with medical people. She's an author, and she had changed her genre once or twice and changed some names. And she was wanting to change again. She wrote a lot of romance novels, and there was something about that, although that was fairly lucrative for her, something didn't feel good inside of her about it anymore. And she really wanted to write historical fiction. So she totally switched her genre, and she has written 2 books since then and had 2 book deals around it. So it was really amazing. And now I think she's looking at her life a little bit differently, like what she still wants to stay, I think, in that genre, but what is it next? Is it going to be traditional publishing, or am I going to do something different? So she's starting to look outside the box.
That's great.
Those, yes, those are great stories. Yes. Rita, did you have another question?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, when you were talking about the person in the medical field, like I feel like everybody in the medical field can relate to that. 'Cause it's like
Mm.
we go into it because we love what we do, but our system is so broken and we're so burnt out that it's so hard to have longevity, in these careers. And I know for me, I mean, I've been a PA for 33 years, and I think I've been experiencing burnout for at least a decade. And working on this transition away from it, like how can I still share my gifts with people and help people the way I love to without killing myself.
Yeah.
It's just high volume, and you don't feel like you have the impact that you want to have. And every day when you see healthcare workers, they're just as unhealthy as everybody else. And
Yeah.
it just breaks my heart when I see
Yeah.
like doctors and nurses that are morbidly obese, and you see them walking out of the hospital at after a 12-hour shift, and you could just see the pain in their back
Hmm.
and their legs, and they're hunched over and they're limping, and it just breaks my heart. I'm just like, how do we fix this? It's like not everybody wants to completely leave the profession and be a private coach, but but we need the full-time income, so you can't most people can't afford to go part-time until maybe you're approaching retirement. So it's a real challenge. I don't know, like what kind of
It is.
advice could you share with people on that subject?
For me, the first thing is, and it does take a little behind the scenes work before you make decisions about what it is you really, want to do with your life. There are things, I know people who have shifted within the environment of healthcare and found something different.
Yeah.
I know some people more my age who are now doing like some more mentoring, teaching, that kind of thing. I also know some young people who've gone out into having their own businesses, their own practices, and doing things a little differently. So the first thing is, first of all, what I want to say is it's dealing with up here. It's always dealing with up here first for everything.
Mhm.
Even when we want to do like a health program or Medicaid or anything, you got to deal here because we have beliefs and patterns of ways of being that run our lives automatically. It's our subconscious, and we have to start bringing those to awareness so we know which ones are serving us and which ones aren't. And so I would say first to start doing some inner work around that to get to know yourself better. And there's lots of ways you can do that to know who you are. And then really dive into this, it sounds simple to find your purpose. And I know a lot of people think their purpose is either their kids or their job or their charity or whatever the thing is that they do. And I'm going to tell you that's not your purpose. It's what you do with your purpose, but your purpose is the essence of you and how that is transmuted out into the world. And if you don't know what that is, like I couldn't articulate it. I didn't really know it. I think there was a deep knowing inside of me, and I know that I am here to radiate my love, radiate my light of love. And then my mission is to empower humans to know their value and believe in their possibilities. And it sounds a little woo woo out there, and yet that's the truth of what it is. And when I first did some purpose work and that came up, that light of love, excuse me, what the heck is that? What the hell is that? Like light of love. I'm going to go to work and say, oh, I'm a light of love. They're going to like laugh at me. And so I kept that in my own little circle. And yet I know that's my truth. So I encourage people to figure that out. There's a zillion programs out there to help you get in alignment with that, but it's not what you do. Your purpose is not what you do. It's the essence of you that's always been there. It's just you find ways to bring it out. So that's what I would say first is get the awareness of what kind of stories you're telling yourself that are not serving you, and then get really clear on who you are and who you're designed and created to be.
That's good.
Well, that takes us right into our next comment is you talk a lot in your programs about living full out. How do you define living full out, and what practical steps can someone take to embrace this mindset?
Well, I do have a Live Full Out guide. So if you go to my website,
Okay.
kathymela.com, you can get it. And if you want, I can put that link in the chat in a minute. Grab it, a free Live Full Out guide. And basically what it does is bring some awareness to you of where you are. And I like to call it's all about you and looking at life from a different perspective. We're again, our beliefs, our patterns, we tend to look at life this way. And sometimes all it is a 1-degree shift to look and see that instead of this. And so that's what this is about, the Live Full Out Guide. It really is about looking at life through a couple different lenses, and you can pick lots of lenses. I happen to pick these two, and I call it first day, last day. And I'm not saying you're going to live in this every minute of every day, but it's to take it on sometimes and take moments of your day where you approach something in your day as the first time you've ever experienced it. Like the first time you go for a walk and you experience the birds chirping, or you experience a sunrise, or you listen to your kid talk to you, you listen to their voice, you really sit and listen and watch them. So it's like just taking that on the first time you experience something. I mean, I don't know if any of you have ever been to Disney World, but I think that's like one of my things. The first time to Disney World, it was magical, and now if I go, I've been there, I don't know how many times, over 30. It's like, oh, it's just Disney World. So we get used to things. And then I also like to go to the last day approach, where what if today was your last day? How would you want to spend it? Would you want to spend it arguing about something with somebody? Would you want to, like, what would you want to do? Would you want to talk to your loved ones? Would you want to go to the spa? Like, would you make phone calls? Like, what would you do? And play like this is your last day, because the truth is, we don't know. Nobody
Yeah.
gets out of this life alive. None of us know if when our time is up here. And so if you can approach parts of your day from that perspective, first day, last day, it begins to shift something inside of you where you're willing to take on new things and learn new things about yourself and allow yourself to expand and grow.
I love that. Yeah. Like they always say, when for dog owners, like, your dog, every time you take a walk, it's like their very first time. They're so excited just every single time. It never gets old for them. And we need to learn from that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
love
great.
that. Now, those, of course, do you consider that a couple of your strategies, that first day, last day? Do you have other strategies that you use in your coaching to help women visualize to create their best selves?
I do. I have a lot of strategies. I mean, a couple
Okay.
things. I focus a lot on self-compassion. I like to explain what that means. I happened to learn that selfish was a bad thing early on in life, and so I figured the opposite of that must be what I'm to be, which is selfless. And so I like to be clear about how those are defined. And selfish is when you often do things at other people's expense, maybe at the detriment of others. And selfless is when you do things for others, often at the detriment of yourself. So when I saw those definitions, I'm like, well, no, neither of those is good. So how do we find that middle ground? And, it can be called self-care or self-compassion. And it's really coming from a place of honoring my needs as well as being aware of the impact I have on others by my choices and decisions. And so I like to talk about that. I do a lot of mindset work, looking at what your beliefs have been and which ones maybe aren't serving you. I have a lot of tools on that. I also like to look at the emotional scale a lot. I think it's really important for us to be tapped into our emotions. Most of us are taught to stuff them. I was. I remember when one of my coaches years ago asked me to describe like where I was stuffing those feelings. And this will date myself, but I said it was like a Dewey Decimal System box from the library sitting here in my chest. And all the boxes were full and starting to puff out. And every now and then there would be like this explosion, And so cards would fly all out. And that would be when I got angry and flipped out about stuff. And then, okay, let's stuff those emotions back down. And I wasn't taught how to feel them, how to process them. And so I think that's a lot of what I do. I've worked with a lot of women around grief and feelings and a lot of the feelings that we have in life. And when I say grief, yes, grief in the loss of someone. It can also be the loss of a pet. It can also be the loss of other things in our life, the loss of the ideal of who we thought we'd be at this point in our lives, the loss of a job, the loss of a relationship. Like there's tons of things we grieve about, but mostly when we think about grief, we think about death. So to learn to process that as well. So those are a couple of my tools and strategies.
Gosh, Kathy, I remember this has been a few years back, but I was still working in the salon industry. Again, I was wearing that busyness like a badge, and I was booking those clients every hour on the hour. And Mark's dad and my mom both needed care during that time. They had some major health issues. And so here I was trying to balance all of my busyness with being a caregiver. And I tell you, I wasn't even on the list, let alone at the top of the list. I wasn't even on the list. How do you work with your clients? Because again, as nurses, their whole day is spent as caregivers. How do they reclaim some of their own joy and fulfillment?
One of the things I give is I have a self-compassion tool, and it's just it's a little blurb, but mostly it's the quote, and I think if you can get this into your head, it's to give to yourself as much as you give of yourself. And
Ah,
again, it's not something we learn; it's a process. It's learning to set boundaries, learning to set healthy boundaries, learning to say no, learning to say that no is a complete sentence. I don't have to defend my no. If you ask me something and it's a no, it's a no. I don't have to. I see it. It's interesting because I'm on a lot of group texts and I see when people say no, then they give a whole explanation. If you want to, you can, but you don't have to. So it's just owning that. It's owning these parts of ourselves and sort of stepping away from what are the shoulds, the have tos, and the supposed tos. Those are the social norms, and I know we all want to fit in, and yet sometimes that fitting in, if we strive too much to please people and to fit in, that's not good for us either. There's some of these patterns of behavior. I have names for a few of them, and you've probably heard some of them, and that is the people pleaser. There are also the perfectionist. I've got a little bit of all
mhm.
those in there. There's a lot of different ways of being that we all show up as, and not saying any of them are right, wrong, good or bad. It's like how is it showing up for us in our lives, and is it on an extreme level? Because often we think in an either or mindset. Well, either I got to please people or nobody's going to be happy with me, well, there is some of that middle ground. So when we think a yes and, so these are just some of the philosophies that I teach, and it's a process. And I will say the other thing is it's also you got to be willing to do the inner work. When I talk to women, sometimes I know right away that some people are not ready for it, and that's okay. That's just where they're at. And you got to be ready, and you got to be willing to let the mirror be held up. You got to be willing to hear some feedback, and then you got to take action, because I could share a ton of stuff with you, but until you decide how to bring it into your life and what's going to work best for you. And I always tell, all my clients, I don't have your answers. I know you think I do, but I don't. Your answers are already inside of you. I will guide you and help you find the answers inside of you, but they're inside of you.
So give us some practical tips, because a lot of things that we're talking about, it's all in theory and it all sounds good. And if I'm listening to this podcast later on, I'm like, okay, I agree with everything they're saying. I need to do this, but I don't know how to take that one little step. How do you help your clients actually implement those little steps to start changing their mindset so that they can focus on creating that lifestyle and that legacy?
I think it is, it's this whole accountability. I actually just did my blog post for December, which will be out soon, about accountability. So I love that. A lot of the coaching, I'm just going to take a sip of water. To me, that was some of the things that are missing in some of these cookie cutter approaches is the accountability. There's a lot of research out there. I'll just throw a few statistics that off of the top of my head. They're not exact, but when we say we have a goal, we want to do something, we want to lose 10 pounds. So our ability to have success with that is somewhere around 25 to 40% without any accountability. If we don't talk to anybody about it, maybe we just tell one person and we do it, that's your success rate on average. If you tell someone about it and make a commitment to it and say, I'm going to do this, then it jumps up to around 60%. And then if you have an actual accountability partner and a time and a date that you meet, it jumps up to 90 to 95%. And so, I know we all think we can be accountable to ourselves. And we can, except that's a learned thing as well. And oftentimes we think we can, and yet we don't. I mean, how many of us say we're going to do things and then we don't? So it's really like accountability is a big piece, and that's kind of what I build into my programs. And so we set goals, we set the things. What is it you want to accomplish? And not some, I want to feel better. No, like sometimes we got to put some numbers on it and put some metrics on it and say, how will you know when you get to feeling better? What does that look like? Are you gonna, again, is it about weight? Is it about energy? What are the things that is going to help you feel better? Maybe it's about relationships. How will you know if your relationship is improved? So getting metrics and then being accountable. Like I call it life work. I give life work. This is not, like it's not my stuff to do. I've already done a lot of it. And so I give life work and you get to do it or not. But I would say if somebody gives you something, gives you a question to ponder, or you set a goal and you don't make it, like, how do you come back and be gentle with yourself and then say, okay, let me renegotiate this and get back on track? And so there's some gentleness in this, and there's also this accountability. We have to be accountable. And yeah, to me, that's the biggest piece.
What's the biggest obstacle that you see that your clients really struggle to overcome? If you could, what's the most common one?
It's a deep one, and most people are gonna maybe not think that, but it comes to not enough, not feeling like they're enough.
Interesting.
And I say that because there's other ones that are like that, but when you get to the root of it, it's really that they don't feel enough for some reason, and then it's sort of, I mean, I'm not a psychologist. I like to look at the past from the point of getting to what the root of it is, and then saying, without blame and shame, what do I choose now? Like, okay, that happened. Like, we can't undo that. And I have feelings around it. Let me process my feelings and let me move on so that I can be and do what I say I want to be and do. So, and again, some of us, like, I'm a speaker. So I want to get out there on more stages. So I have some things to do. Some people don't want to speak. What is it you want to do in your life? And it doesn't have to be a business. It can be to be healthier. And I would say, if you don't feel good in your body, or your mind is telling you stuff, or you're not being your own best friend in your mind, that's a great place to start. We all watch your self-talk. People think they don't do it. We all have some self-talk. And I would say, if I could give you one thing to start with, it would be listen to what you say come out of your mouth. I know somebody who constantly, every time I'm in their presence, speaks about, well, the problem is, I must hear it 5 to 10 times. The problem is. And so again, look at that. Does somebody trip and say, oh, I'm so clumsy, or I'm this, or oh, I can't do this. I'm so bad at this. Listen to your language, because that is powerful. And when you can catch it and start saying, even if you say it, oh, I've always said I was bad at this, but you know what? I can learn to be better at it. And you can't all often say, it's like people that say, well, say I'm a millionaire. Okay. Maybe your brain doesn't believe that. Maybe if you need to lose 50 pounds, your brain doesn't believe that's going to happen. You have to start somewhere. Well, can I say to my brain, so I'm going to make some steps, and we're going to go towards 5 pounds, or we're going to, I'm going to make, $10,000, or, whatever. The thing is, you have to start in a believable state so that your mind can grasp onto that, and learn to talk nicely to yourself. Learn to be kind and gentle, and have self-compassion with you.
Yeah.
I heard a phrase way back in the day, and I'll share it with you, Kathy, and please, and you may have heard it as well. I don't know if you were listening to, because we know the same person, but anyway, I was making that comparison, and I said, well, I have some clients, and they're always saying, oh, I can't do that, or I don't know how to do that, or I'm not good enough for that, or whatever. And they said, well, have them add until now at the
I
end
like
of their
that.
sentence. And they said it's a great way to turn that around and say, oh, I can't do that. Oh, until now. Or I'm not good enough for that. Well, until now.
I
Or
like that.
way I could accomplish that until now.
Yeah.
And by just adding, just, because it's going to sneak out of their mouth or into their thoughts before they can stop it. And as soon
Yeah.
as they realize it, if they would just add the phrase until now at the end of it, it just turns the meaning totally around and
Yeah.
turns
I
it
love
into
that.
something they can do. And
And
so
go
I
ahead.
catch
I was just,
myself I catch
yeah.
myself doing that. I still even and I'm pretty positive about my life, and I'm creating the life that I want, and I still catch myself saying, "Oh, I'm terrible at this." Until now.
Yeah, one of the things I often hear from people is, oh, I don't tech is so hard, or I don't do tech, or I can't do tech. And, until now, or I can, everything is figure outable. It's finding something that resonates with your brain. So I love that until now, because that totally interrupts it. And that's the key, is we might get to some point where we won't say those things, but that takes a lot of work. And so that's not going to help you now. Let's talk
Yeah.
about now. So until now, you get to interrupt it that way. And I love that. That's a beautiful saying. I'm going to take that on.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that too. And don't you find too, once you hit menopause, your perspective on things and people you want to be around really changes, right? So I know for me, like the second I hear somebody who's got that negative spirit, it's like everything comes out of their mouth is negative. I'm like, bye-bye. Like I'm like, whoop, don't want to be around those people at all, you know. So yeah, we all
Yeah.
have somewhat of that, right? But some people are just constantly, you're just like,
And
don't.
and again, some of that is learning to manage our own thoughts and our own energy around that, like, because sometimes we can't avoid those people. And how do we protect again, sort of protect ourselves? How do we manage our energy? What's going to work for us to be in that situation? And that's a great intro, Rita, to just what I want to say. We're going into a season where we tend to be around people more, holiday seasons, family, maybe people we don't always want to be around. And so how, it's like, it's so important. And I've had those incidences. I've had a couple experiences that were eye openers to me, that um I didn't show up how I liked. I had one was years ago, and it was with, I hope, I think it's okay for me to say this because I do talk about this, but it was with one of my daughter's mother-in-laws. And it's just a long-standing sort of friction there. And so, we went somewhere, and anyways, the thing is, and I was so pissed at the situation that I stayed pissed off for the whole weekend. And I didn't allow myself to be present with my kids and enjoy them. And so one of my coaches on Monday, when we talked about it, said, when we focus too much on expectations, we miss out on opportunities. And that
Mm,
was another big awareness to me, is like, oh, so sometimes I'm not saying we shouldn't have expectations. I'm saying sometimes we get so locked into that it's got to look this way. And when
yeah.
it doesn't, we lose sight of the whole thing. And so then we're missing out on an opportunity. And I realized I missed out on an opportunity to be with my family in a special way that weekend. It's not that I haven't had lots of great weekends, and I don't regret that, because that was a great learning tool for me so that I could start choosing how I wanted to show up, choosing to manage my energy, choosing ahead of time, knowing some people will be in my space that maybe are going to trigger me, going to irritate me. This is the reality. And so just knowing how we're going, thinking ahead of time, how we're going to operate through that, and what we're going to do, what will help us get grounded. You need to step outside and take a couple deep breaths. You need to go for a walk. You need to have a frank conversation with somebody. I mean, it can be any or all of that, or something different. It's like finding what works for you. So yeah, this is a great time to talk about that.
I love that. I love all the wisdom that you're sharing, Kathy. I really appreciate that. We learn so much more as we get older, and I think that women, as we age, are not as valued in our culture as they should be. But the amount of wisdom that you just shared tonight is so wonderful, and really appreciate you. You mentioned your programs, plural. So, could you share with us what offerings do you have? What kind of programs do you offer that you could tell everybody about?
So I do a monthly play shop. Last month was on resilience. We had a great time, had some great awarenesses. The one coming up in December will be on the 12th. It's basically it's about completing 2024. I call it the completion creation game. It's about walking through some questions that where you kind of complete and feel complete with 24, and then what do you want to create in 2025. And you can do that at the year, you can do it all kinds of time, but it's just a fun exercise to take a deeper look at where you're at in life. And so I pick a different theme every month, and we have fun. It's 2 hours. And then I am starting, I have a Facebook group, Thrive and Shine. I also, it's a little new, I'm working on building and growing the community. And I'm starting in a women's empowerment circle in the beginning of the new year. And then I have my partnership coaching. And I call it partnership coaching again because I don't believe in the mindset that you're going to come in and I'm going to tell you what to do and that's going to help you. It's like, no, it's a partnership. We work together. I intuitively come up with strategies. A lot of my strategies, I've shared pieces, but sometimes if I don't have a tool, then I go and make up a tool, or I come up with things on the spot that intuitively says this is what this person needs. And then you have to do the inner work to have the results, to obtain the results that you want in your life. That's always what happens. So partnership coaching, and you
I
can
love that.
book a free call with me. I'd love to chat with you.
Yeah, I love the way you just described that, because as a health coach myself and still trying to grow, people are saying you got to have your program, or you create this program that people can just buy it and it's evergreen. I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's great. But I realize when you just said that, so much of what I do is intuitive.
Yeah.
So it's
Yes.
really so individualized. So it's not just something that you can tell everybody eat this, everybody do this exercise, do this for stress. Everybody is so different,
Mhm.
right?
So I have an analogy I'll share with you. I call it the poolside analogy, and it's kind of for people to decide where they're at. And so there's the sunbathers, and the sunbathers sit on the side and they look at things going on, and yet they don't ever get in the pool. And they have no intention of getting in the pool. And if that's where you are, that's great. You just absorb some information. Maybe at some point in time you'll dip your toes in. Then there's the toe dippers. They just sit on the edge, put their feet in a little bit. They might do a thing here or there, but they're just not ready, and it's okay. And then there's the waiters who get in maybe up to waist level, and they're just sort of walking around a little bit, checking it out, testing the water. And then there's the swimmers, and the divers. And those are the people that are really ready to do that inner work. And if you happen to be a sunbather or a toe dipper or a waiter, that's okay. That's where you're at. Be gentle, kind with yourself. When you're ready, you might become a swimmer or a diver. You know, it's just, I'm not going to say, I give a lot of simple concepts, and I'm pretty sure you do too, Rita. Like, this is not hard. We tell ourselves it's hard. It's not hard. It's simple, but it can be challenging. It takes some work. You got to put in the effort. You know, if you think about anything in life, to get the results you want, you put in effort.
I love that analogy. That's great. I'm definitely
Yeah,
gonna
that's a
use that.
great analogy.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it too. So Kathy, how can folks connect with you? Is it just kathymela.com?
kathymela.com. Yep, I have I put the Live Full Out guide. You can grab that, get on my email list. On my website is blogs. You can read some stories that I've written. I wrote one about the tree falling on my daughter's house in October, so you can read that. That just was out. And then I got my new one on accountability coming out, so quite a few blogs there. I am on all social medias. Yeah, and there you can book a call with me. That's on my website as well. So yeah, kathymela.com.
I
And
love it.
what was the name of your Facebook group again, Kathy? I want to join that.
Thrive and Shine.
Thrive and Shine.
It might be Thrive and Shine Community.
Okay.
Let's see if I have it here. Yeah, no, I didn't put that link up. I should have, but yeah.
There's a few.
We'll look it up.
Yeah, there's a few options in there. Then
I'll send you an invite, Rita.
okay, great. Would love that.
Yeah, if you send it over to me as well, when I do the replay, I will put your links in the replay so that folks can connect with you. Because we do get our share of listeners on our replay. We're on a lot of different channels, and I go in and look at all of that later on, and I'm pleasantly surprised at our following and folks that are tapping in. So yes, I'll put all of your links there. Leave us with just one piece of advice to women who feel stuck or uncertain about the future. If you could just give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, before I give the piece of advice, I want to say thank you, ladies, for having me on today. It's been really enjoyable. I've loved connecting with you and your community. And the piece of advice that I would say is don't stay stuck. I know that sounds a little weird, but do something. Take a step. And I read something the other day that sometimes we're not even ready to take the step. Maybe we just need to change direction where we are. Maybe we just need to look at it differently. Maybe we just need to pivot just a little and say, oh, I'm going to go east instead of west, or I'm going to go northeast instead of north. You know, it's just sometimes that minor thing of looking at it and going, oh, that's really where I want to go. So it's a twofold. Like, yes, do something. And if you don't know what to do and you feel really so stuck that you can't even change direction, then get help. There's tons of people out there. There's Rita, there's Kathy, there's me. There's so much. Find something that works for you, that resonates with you. You know what it is already. Reach out.
Good advice. Thank you so much. Kathy, thank you so much for being on today. And Rita, thank you. And thank you for everything that you bring to the call. I love you and everything that you're doing. And I'm so excited for your new venture. And thank you so much for being on the call. For those that are listening, we are here every third Monday at 4 p.m. Put it on your calendar. And it's the same Zoom code every time. And it's Eastern time. It's the same Zoom. So just put us on your calendar and click through, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for being
Bye,
here.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.